All right, boys and girls, today we're going to start a new topic called forms of energy. So make sure you have the classwork document open that looks like this, where it says classifying forms of energy notes on the top. And you're going to be filling in the red words as we go through the PowerPoint. So let's get the PowerPoint up and going. Okay, so today's topic is called forms of energy. And a quick review, energy is the ability to make things move or cause changes in matter. So every single type of energy we talk about today has the ability to make things move or cause some type of change in matter. Our previous topic talked about the two types of energy, and we talked about potential energy or stored energy. We also talked about kinetic or moving energy. But today we're going to focus on forms of energy. So we have our kinetic and we have our potential energy we've already talked about, but we're going to further break these down into 7 different forms. So under kinetic energy, you can see mechanical, thermal, which is sometimes called heat, sound energy, electrical energy, radiant energy, which is also called light. Under potential energy, we have something called chemical energy and also nuclear. So we're going to go through each one of these just so we have an idea of what it is and a couple of examples of each. So we're going to start with nuclear energy. So here's where you're going to want to start taking notes. Make sure you're writing down the red words. So nuclear energy is the energy produced by the rearrangement of the nucleus of an atom. And rearrangement means something is changing specifically to the nucleus. So we're not looking at the atom as a whole, we're looking at the nucleus of an atom, and I'll show you some examples on the next page. Nuclear energy creates a very, very large amount of energy, which is why it's used. So some examples that you might have already heard of, the atomic bomb or nuclear power plants. So one of the reasons why nuclear energy is very popular around the world is because it creates a large amount of energy. So the way that energy is produced through this process, there's 2 different types. There's nuclear fission, and that's when the nucleus of an atom splits. Okay, so here is our nucleus, and it splits into 2 different ones, and when this happens, lots of energy is released. And nuclear fusion is when 2 different nuclei, so 2 separate nucleus combine and form one. And this also creates a lot of energy. The sun gets its energy from nuclear fusion. So the sun is an example of nuclear energy. So on the sun, 2 different small atoms, the nuclei will come together and fuse and creates a much larger atom, and which is why the sun has so much energy that we can actually use. The next type of energy we're going to talk about is chemical energy. Now, we are still talking about an atom here, but we're not talking about the nucleus anymore. Chemical energy is the energy produced due to the breaking of chemical bonds. So when those different atoms bond together and when their bonds are broken. Some examples: burning, digesting food, batteries, matches when you light like a flame, and plants through the process of photosynthesis. So whenever bonds are broken, so that releases a lot of energy, and whenever new bonds are created. Sound energy is energy from the movement of air molecules. So really what you're sensing is the vibration. So a balloon popping is an example, a bell dinging on a microwave. Sound energy is sometimes considered a type of mechanical energy, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. Heat energy, which is sometimes called thermal energy, and we're going to come back to this and actually spend a few days just talking about heat energy later on. But for now, heat energy is the energy produced by the internal motion of molecules. So you can kind of think about states of matter here and think about how molecules moved as they heated up from a solid to a liquid to a gas. So faster molecules would give us a warmer substance, and slower molecules would give us a cooler or colder substance. So right now you can actually go ahead and rub your hands together to create some friction, and you're going to create some heat energy. or anytime something is melting, you can kind of think about heat energy is at play there. Mechanical energy is the energy associated with the movement or position of an object. So anytime you're seeing something moving, that would be an example of mechanical energy. So like I said, sometimes sound is considered mechanical energy because it's a movement or vibration of air molecules. Waterfalls are moving water, so that's mechanical. A person running, that would be a moving person. A windmill or a wind turbine is moving, it's spinning. Tires on a bike moving, that would be mechanical energy. Electrical energy is something we're going to talk about quite more in detail towards the end of this unit. But for now, electrical energy is produced by the motion of charges in an electric field. Specifically, we're talking about electrons moving, electrical electrons. But we'll go into more detail later on about that. Some examples for now: batteries, they give us electricity. Lighting, power lines can move electricity. And electrical energy is very useful to us because it can be converted into other types of energy. So a light bulb takes electrical energy and turns it into light. Or a toaster takes electrical energy and turns it into heat. A fan takes electrical energy and turns it to mechanical energy, the moving blades of the fan. And a doorbell or a radio take electrical energy and turn it into sound. So we're going to spend a lot more time talking about electrical energy. For now, we can kind of see, here's a nice picture that shows us that when we have electricity, its electrons are jumping from atom to atom. So here we have our nucleus, we have our protons and our neutrons in the center, we have our electrons around the outside, and what happens when we have a flow of electricity is the electrons will jump from atom to atom to atom. The last type of energy we're going to talk about today is called light energy, and sometimes it's called radiant. And this is actually one of the topics that we're going to go into really great detail in our last unit called waves. But light energy is the energy of electromagnetic waves. So that includes visible light, like from the sun. It includes things like radio waves, TV rays, ultraviolet rays, and X-rays. And we're going to learn more about that next unit. Here's some example of the different electromagnetic rays that we're going to talk about in the next unit. You can see this small section here is visible light. This is what the human eye can see. But there are other types of rays that we can't see with our eyes, but are still there. Okay, so let's do a couple of examples and then we're going to watch a brain pop video. So this is a picture of a tomato, which is food. This is a plant, and plants undergo photosynthesis, so that it would be an example of chemical energy. If you were to eat this tomato, your body would digest it to get energy from it, which is also an example of chemical energy. Here we have an electric stove. So some of you might have these stoves in your kitchen. So some of you might have like the flame that comes up, or some of you might have these electric coils. So what you're seeing here is there's electrical energy from the stove being turned into heat. You can see that red color. You can kind of guess that if you touched it, it'd be very warm. So this would be a good example of heat or thermal energy. Here we have someone playing an instrument, which creates beautiful music, which is sound energy. Here we have a tree, which is also a type of plant. Plants get their energy from the sun. So this is an example of photosynthesis, which is an example of chemical energy. We have a person running here, and there's lots of different ways to think about this, but really simply, if you think about a moving person, moving energy is called mechanical. And it's really easy to remember because moving starts with the letter M and mechanical also starts with the letter M. Here we have two wires, and you can see these little mini, they kind of look like lightning bolts. So those are showing us electricity. So this must be electrical energy. Here we have a light bulb. It's right in the name, light energy. In this picture, we have a person moving a box. So when they're pushing the box, it's moving, so we see mechanical energy. There's another type of energy if you think about the box moving across the floor. The box is rubbing up against the floor and creating some friction. And when there's friction, you might know that it gets very hot or it heats up, so we also have some heat energy here. Okay, so before I have you do some practice questions, we're going to watch a brain pop video. Let's go over to our brain pop, and this is on the forms of energy, and it's a really quick one.
Okay, just relax and keep your eye on the target. Well, that was closer than last time. Dear Tim and Moby, what is energy? From Lily. Energy is what makes matter move or change. It's the ability to do work. When the bow is stretched like that, it has potential or stored energy. We know that as soon as Moby releases the bow, that stored energy will be released as motion. The potential energy will transfer to the arrow. The arrow moving through the air has kinetic energy. That's the energy of motion. Not bad, you hit the target this time. Well, the bow does work on the arrow when you release it. And the arrow does work on the target when it hits. Energy comes in a bunch of different forms. There's chemical energy stored in food that your body uses to walk, run, and lift things. Power plants and batteries provide us with electrical energy. The sun is our major source of light energy. Wind, moving water, airplanes, and sound waves all have mechanical energy. Vibrating atoms cause heat, and that makes thermal energy. Nuclear energy is released from inside atoms when they are broken apart or fused together. Nice shot. Hey, you're becoming a pro at this. No way. There's no way I'm letting you shoot this apple off my head. Forget it.
Okay, so before you go on and do the practice page, make sure all of your notes are filled in. So if you have any blanks that have not been filled in, make sure you go back to the video, and you can pause if I spoke too quickly and you didn't get everything written down. Once that's done, you can go and do the practice worksheet below the notes in the classwork document.